Hey everyone, post-episode Cameron here. I wanted to address a little weird thing that happened. Apparently, like the last episode, I knew on YouTube it was going to get a copyright thing because I used Duel of the Fates in the beginning. But what I didn't know is that it would actually cause the video to go private. But I didn't realize that till now, so I fixed it and it should be public now. If you listen solely on YouTube, then you'll see it in the videos. If you don't listen on YouTube, then you don't even have to worry about it. But the fact is that on YouTube, it's public now, so go see it there. Or if you prefer not to listen on YouTube, then you know what, that's your choice. But enjoy that episode if you want. But if you're not gonna enjoy that episode, then hey, I hope you enjoy this episode. So let's do.
What have I got?
My friends are my power.
Three, two, one. Fight.
What is going on, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome back to Nerdsplosion, a weekly podcast where we nerd out about whatever we feel like. And this month, we are continuing our Star Wars month. I'm Kate.
And I'm Cameron.
What's up?
I like how you were just like, oh, I really want to do the intro. And then you're just like, blah, 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 blah. So, you like sports?
I guess so. You heard of sports ball? No, I
You
came
into
in. I
sports
came
ball?
in. I came in all confident after the intro, and then I was like, I don't have anything to say.
But yeah, we're continuing talking about Star Wars. Last episode we did episode 1, 2, and 3. And we are continuing today talking about episode 4, 5, and 6.
The superior episodes, in my humble opinion.
Before we get into that, obviously new episodes of this podcast, every Saturday. Make sure you're following or do whatever you do on all the things. But I guess with that, let's just dive right into it, shall we? So starting with Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope came out in 1977 and it is the first Star Wars movie ever to come out, but is technically the fourth in the Skywalker saga. Set a long time ago in a fictional...
long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Put some respect on her name.
Ruled by the tyrannical Galactic Empire, the story follows a group of freedom fighters known as the Rebel Alliance, who aim to destroy the Empire's newest weapon, the Death Star. When the Rebel leader Princess Leia is abducted by the Empire, Luke Skywalker acquires stolen architectural plans of the Death Star and sets out to rescue her while learning the ways of a metaphysical power known as the Force from the Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. The cast includes Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing, Alec Guinness, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew, David Prowse, and James Earl Jones. What did you think of episode 4?
A New Hope is probably, and I have to think carefully about what I'm about to say because I'm pretty sure last week I said that the second movie was my favorite. But I think if we're going on the entire Skywalker saga, if I had to sit down and pick, this is the one movie I'm going to watch for the rest of my life and I'm not going to watch any of the other Star Wars, I think I'd go with A New Hope.
Yeah, I could kind of see that.
I like A New Hope a lot. Just kind of it picks up kind of right where 3 left off. But like obviously with a 20-year gap. Well, how old is Luke in A New Hope?
Let me scroll
He's
down
like in his
to the
late
plot.
teens, right?
I was saying, let me scroll down the plot and see if I can get any answer from that. I probably won't. Galactic Turn, blah blah blah. Oh, and their nephew Luke Skywalker. Okay, that doesn't tell me how old he is. So, let's have Google say the rest. Or
also, I know this probably doesn't like matter, and I feel like I should know this, but is it like canon that Those are his aunt and uncle? Like, legitimately?
Yes.
So who do they belong to? Are they Anakin's brother?
Anakin, I saw it somewhere, but I totally forgot what the whole thing is. But first, let's answer the question of Luke's age. So, according to this random thing on Torah, Luke is supposed to be like 19. Or supposedly 19.
That's what I thought. 19. He was like late teens, early 20s.
Now that you've got me questioning it, let's see. How Owen and Beru are related to Anakin.
So Owen is the stepbrother of Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
I was like, if I don't answer that at the top, that's going to bug me the entire episode. Because I get hung up on stuff like that.
I mean, without going over the entire plot, I mean, I could probably basically go over the entire plot, but the basic of it is, the Empire is big and evil and taking over, and Darth Vader's just like, I want those rebel plans, give me the plans, blah, blah, blah. And Leia's like, well, I put it in a droid, so you're not going to get it. Ha 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 ha. Fuck you.
Oh. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher was the GOAT.
But then, obviously, Luke, or Owen and Beru want to buy some droids. That's how they end up with R2-D2 and C-3PO in the first place. And then Luke finds out about the rebel plans in Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he's like, oh, I gotta go find Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then all the shit just goes down from there. All of a sudden, he's on a mystical adventure of, helping the Rebel Alliance and blowing up the Death Star. When all he wanted to do was go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Did Anakin built 3PO, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, a fun fact I learned today, if you look in the background in episode 1, there is like an empty shell for a protocol droid, and that is actually the original C-3PO thing, like costume.
From 6 or from 4?
Yes.
See, that's one of the things I love about these movies, and George Lucas specifically, is that he has a way of bringing everything full circle.
Or he's just reusing props.
Well, either way, but like if you think about it from like a cinematic standpoint, Anakin built 3PO, and then 3PO ends up with his son, just by happenstance.
Yeah, that is kind of. I
it's
forget
all
the word
cryptic
for it.
and woo-woo, and I'm here for it.
It's cryptic and woo-woo. Let's go on to the cast, shall we, before we go any further. Obviously, Luke Skywalker is Mark Hamill, the GOAT, the legend. We have Harrison Ford as Han Solo, the GOAT, the legend. Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, the GOAT, the legend, R.I.P. Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin, R.I.P., another great. Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Ben Kenobi.
Can I just say, Alec Guinness, you could not have picked a better actor to play.
Yeah, too bad
Ben
he hated
Kenobi.
it.
I know, and that makes me so sad.
I mean, good thing they only used... Well, I was going to say they only used him for one movie, but he returned as a Force ghost.
You know him? Of course I do. He is me.
You know Obi-Wan? Of course I know him. He's me.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. I
haven't heard that name since before you were born.
I saw a TikTok earlier because I was looking up Star Wars stuff. Because that's like all my TikTok For You page now is Star Wars Very Smut and Sleep Token. But I saw this TikTok. It was like a compilation. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that word. But it was like a compilation of like, quote, the best Obi-Wan moments in the Star Wars universe. So it starts out with Luke and Obi-Wan, and he's like, you knew Obi-Wan? And he was like,
oh, is that like one video where it's like, it's from New Hope, and he's telling them about like Anakin and the Clone Wars, but it puts in shots from episodes 1, 2, and 3?
No. I think it was supposed to be like a thirst video or whatever.
A thirst video?
Because it was like,
Alec Guinness Obi-Wan?
No. Let me finish. So it starts with that, right? And he was like, of course I do. He is me, or I am him, or whatever. And then it cuts to Ewan McGregor And so it cuts to the scene where General Grievous is like, General Kenobi, and he goes, hello there. And it's just like a smash cut of like the badass shit that Ewan McGregor did as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
It made me laugh really hard just to go from, of course I do, he was me. Hello there. I don't know why but it was very funny. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
All that's in my mind now is just a thirst trap of Obi-Wan.
Listen,
Like, it just starts off with like that's no moon, that's a space station, and then boom, boom,
okay, say what you want.
or
Ewan
just
McGregor's
like
hot.
or just, made a full speed with you.
Oh, I saw another one. Oh crap! Hold on, I forgot what I was gonna say. Continue. It might come back to me.
Oh yeah, I was going through the cast. Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, but you know what's funny in the Wikipedia? They spell it out. Like the word
CTHREE.
No, like the word C, S-E-E, and then 3PO, THREEPIO.
No. Who did that?
I mean, they put it in parentheses, like the actual like letter
Like
C number.
3PO.
Yeah, but in this thing, they actually like spell it out phonetically.
How dare you?
They do the same thing with R2.
Oh, I remember the video I saw.
Kenny Baker as R2D2, spelled ARTOODETOO.
No, how dare you? So it was like a video, and so it started with that same like, you knew Obi-Wan or whatever, and he's like, of course I knew, he's me. And then it cut to Ewan McGregor like in real life doing an interview talking about how he like pulled up on some kids that were speeding or whatever, and he went to yell at them, and one of them goes,
It's fucking Obi-Wan
"That's fucking
Kenobi."
Obi-Wan Kenobi. It just made me laugh really hard because I was like, could you imagine if that's how he was like, if Luke all of a sudden, like, if it registered like that Ben Kenobi and Obi-Wan are the same, and if he was just like, that's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Also, with that vein, can you imagine being those kids that cut up, can you imagine cutting off Ewan McGregor in traffic?
I would
Like, they
fall
roll,
to
like,
my
he rolls the
knees.
window down, and he's like, hey, what the hell's wrong with you? And you're like, hey, why don't you, you're Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's
First of all,
fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I would fall to my knees, Wayne's World style. I am not worthy.
We are worthy. Continuing with this cast list, or the main people, I should say. Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca. I don't know if you did any of the voice stuff. I'm guessing he did, but he got the role because, hey, what better to play a tall, hairy man than a tall, hairy man? You know?
I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, all you gotta do is put on a fursuit and just spend the whole movie going.
Did you just insinuate that Chewbacca's a furry
I
on the
mean,
World Wide Webs?
why wouldn't he be? Some people are into that.
Okay, Mr. Topical. Where does Chewbacca fall on the man versus bear debate?
Where does Chewbacca fall on man versus bear?
Mm-hmm.
Probably closer to bear than anything. Well, okay. I feel like Chewbacca would be kind of in the middle. Are we talking physically or mentally?
Both.
Well, physically, he's obviously closer to a bear than anything. But mentally, I'd say he's somewhere in between.
Listen,
Because he's not exactly the most gentlemanly person, but he's not a complete douchebag.
he's not a fucking predator.
I say person like he's an actual human being,
well,
but
he's
no,
a humanoid
he's a Wookiee.
creature.
He's a Wookiee from the planet Kashyyyk.
For those of you who can't see, he just adjusted his glasses with his middle finger like a fucking nerd.
What are you, some kind of fucking nerd?
Schedules are for nerds. No, but I'm gonna say, I take the bear. 100% of the time I'm choosing the bear, unless Chewie is an option. Then I'm taking Chewie.
I've seen that whole like man versus bear debate, and I mean, honestly, like given everything I know and me being a man myself, yeah, the bear.
listen, I'll take my chances with the bear. If I make myself look big enough, the bear's gonna be like, no thanks.
Like not that I'm a shit person, I hope.
No.
But obviously, like, I get it. I understand it. I understand the whole man versus bear thing.
Well, I saw a comment, not to derail completely, but I saw a TikTok about it earlier, and it was like just reading the comments on some of these pages, and one of the comments like hit me real hard, and it was like, man or bear question mark,
or man or bear, yeah.
Man or bear question mark.
Man, bear, pig.
The bear lives in the woods. The man followed you there.
Cool.
Right? I was like, bear, 100% bear.
And that's another thing too, like with the whole man or bear thing. A bear will attack because it's instinct. A man chooses to attack.
Well, and I saw this TikTok that was like, again, sorry, not to derail completely, but like ADHD brain. I saw this TikTok of this guy that was like doing a skit. So he was like, it was panning back and forth, and he was like switching his profile or whatever. So it was like he was playing two different people. And he was like, well, why would you pick the bear over the man? Like, humans are empathetic and they can rationalize, and like they're compassionate and they have compassion and blah, blah, blah. And then he was like,
that's why you picked the bear.
He was trying to make an argument that like humans are better than bears or whatever. And then so it cuts to him playing the other person, and he's like really quiet for a second. He goes, yeah, but isn't that what makes human predators that much scarier?
Exactly.
And I was like,
that's exactly the thing. That's exactly the thing.
And also for our lovely audience out there, if you're offended by the man versus bear question, take a good long look in the mirror.
Yeah, literally, if you're offended that women are choosing the bear, maybe look at yourself in the mirror and realize why people are choosing the bear.
Like, if obviously I would pick you over the bear because I know you.
Aww.
But like, if I didn't know you and my choices were walk alone in the woods and come face to face with you or a bear, would you be offended if I picked the bear?
I strangely take that as a compliment.
That I would choose the bear if I didn't know you?
Sure.
I'd be like, that's a strange man. No, thank you.
Well, I mean, I am a strange man, but a strange man that you know and married.
Well, yeah, but you're not like, you're the furthest thing from a predator. It's not even funny.
Mm-hmm. Getting back on topic,
anyway,
Star Wars.
Wookiees.
The last notable person in this cast listing, because they have obviously a bunch of other people that were just like, oh, these random people played these random characters. David Prowse / James Earl Jones as Darth Vader.
Oh, I forgot David Prowse was in the costume.
Yeah, David Prowse was the physical Darth Vader,
and
whereas James Earl Jones was the voice.
There's a Big Bang Theory episode that I love that both James Earl Jones and Carrie Fisher are in.
Oh yeah, and where he's hanging out with Sheldon.
Ding dong ditches.
They ding dong ditch.
And she's like, "It's not funny anymore, James." And
he's
like,
"Why am I laughing?"
It's been 20 years. It's not funny anymore, James.
Did I go over box office budget with this one?
No, I think we've derailed twice since then.
So budget. This had a budget of $11 million, and at the box office in 1977, it brought in $775.4 million. I don't know what that is for inflation. I'm not going to do that math because it would hurt my head. But yeah, it made a lot of money. Let's see. It grossed $410 million worldwide during its initial run, which surpassed Jaws, and it became the highest grossing film until the release of E.T. So it was...
Oh shit, it surpassed Jaws?
Yeah, it surpassed Jaws, and it was the highest grossing film until E.T. came out. Interesting. You got any favorite moments from this movie? Anything that stands out? Anything you liked about it? Anything you don't like about it?
I think just... I'm a Carrie Fisher stan, so I think just Princess Leia in general.
Just Princess Leia in general?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
totally
her.
get that. One thing that always makes me laugh,
Princess Leia in the gold bikini.
One thing that always makes me laugh unintentionally, and I know it's not supposed to be a funny moment, is towards the end. Spoilers if you haven't seen.
This
spoilers for a
movie's
movie
like
from 1977.
40 years old, yeah.
Spoilers for a movie from 1977.
Fucking 50-year-old movie.
Obviously, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader / Anakin are facing off again, which I will say, given everything else, about Star Wars, Darth Vader's line to Obi-Wan in that moment actually has a lot more like oomph to it. Where, they meet up and he's like, we meet again at last. When I last left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master.
Yeah.
Only a master of evil, Darth. But, no, I'm talking about, like,
only the Sith.
Obviously, Luke, Han, and Leia are making their way through the Death Star to get to the Millennium Falcon. And Luke stops to see them fighting, and then Obi-Wan just looks at him, smiles, and then does his meditation thing, and Darth Vader just shink. And then he, all his clothes fall, and then Luke just, no! Like, just a high-pitched, no!
No! Yeah.
Also, now that this just popped into my head, who shot first? Han or Greedo?
Han. Greedo
Okay.
never got off a shot.
Okay.
I will fucking fight you on that. I'm right.
That's one of the things they've changed so many times with each re-release.
In the
original, Han shot first and Greedo never got a shot off.
Yes.
In one re-release, they both shot, but Han dodged it. And the other one, Greedo shot first, blah, 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 blah. See, my whole thing on it, like, I don't care who shot first. The point is,
who's on first?
Han survived. Doesn't matter who shot first. Han's the one that's not dead.
Because he's a scruffy looking nerf herder.
I mean, yet, but we'll get to that.
How spoilers? God.
Anything else about that before we move in?
Well, when we get to the whole Darth and Luke thing, I have a comment.
So, moving on?
Yeah.
All right, moving on to episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, which came out in 1980. Now, I'm actually going to go to my notes because, I made notes for a specific reason. And I had an AI generate summaries of these, so there's going to be a lot of stuff, context missing.
So if they're weird?
In Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, the Rebel Alliance faces increasing threats from the Empire. Luke trains with Yoda to become a Jedi while Han and Leia try to evade Darth Vader. The movie reveals Vader is Luke's father and ends on a cliffhanger as the heroes face uncertain futures. So,
I'd say that's pretty accurate.
I mean, it's a basic, general, very general summary of it, but this movie came out May 21st, 1980. It had a budget of $30.5 million, and at the box office brought in somewhere in the range of $538 to $549 million.
So it was a box office banger.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all of the Star Wars movies were, though.
Wait, who was Brackett? I see the name Brackett. Lee Brackett, who was wrote the screenplay for it. Because it says in here, following the success of Star Wars, George Lucas hired Lee Brackett, who was a screenplay writer, to write the sequel. After she died in 1978, he outlined the whole Star Wars saga and wrote the next draft himself, before hiring Raiders of the Lost Ark writer, let me get a name here, Lawrence Kasdan, to enhance his work. To avoid the stress he faced directing Star Wars, Lucas handed the responsibility to Irvin Kershner, who directed the film, and focused on expanding his special effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, instead. So George Lucas didn't directly, direct this one. I mean, he was still involved, but he kind of took a step back so he could expand, elsewhere. He could put all his focus into something else, while at the same time, being there to make sure his baby was taken care of.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was still under Lucasfilm.
Yeah, kind of going back over the plot from what I remember. Empire Strikes Back starts out on Hoth, and it's more fighting the Empire, and then we have a run-in with Lando at one point. They meet up with Darth Vader again, and then there's the infamous showdown between Luke and Darth Vader, because Luke is finally like, hey, I've met up with Darth Vader, I'm going to take revenge for Obi-Wan, blah, blah, blah. And then Darth Vader's just like, join me on the dark side, we have cookies. And Luke is like,
killed
no,
my
I don't want
father."
no, I don't want no damn tooties. You kill my father. And Darth Vader's like, no, I am your father.
No, I am your father.
Which a lot of people think it's Luke, I am your father.
No.
The actual line is, no,
No.
I am your father.
The actual line is, no, I am your father.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about that, and this
And
is,
Luke loses his hand.
yeah, the thing about that is, this is my favorite interview of Mark Hamill ever in the history of ever, because Mark Hamill's impression of Harrison Ford is just chef's kiss.
Oh, yeah, to see. Because they.
Tell it.
Okay.
So everybody got a script, right, for that movie. But the difference is nobody except for Mark Hamill got the correct line in the script. So everybody else's script ended after "you killed my father."
So nobody else knew.
So
about
nobody
the plot
else
twist
knew about the plot
besides
twist
Mark Hamill.
besides Mark Hamill, and he had to keep it to himself, right? So they cut to editing or whatever. He does the line, and then James Earl Jones says, "No, I am your father," and Mark Hamill famously is like, "No," blah blah blah. So then he's talking about how they cut and whatever, and he walks over, and Harrison Ford walks up to him and goes, "Hey kid, you didn't fucking tell me that."
shit.
And I laugh so hard every time because I can hear him. I can hear Harrison Ford say it.
Yeah.
And Mark Hamill's impression of Harrison Ford is immaculate.
Also, to sidetrack, can we just talk about? I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel that Harrison Ford was on. He was like answering different questions.
Oh my god, I love this
and
interview too.
at one point, there's a Wookiee in the audience, and he's just like this Wookiee just says something, and Harrison Ford is like, "You son of a bitch."
You son of a bitch. My favorite.
He's like, "She was my wife."
My other favorite moment is when I can't remember if it's Conan or Fallon, but one of the talk show hosts leans in and he's like, "I will give you $1,000 right now if you tell me something about the new Star Wars movie." And so Harrison Ford kind of looks around, takes the money, puts it inside his jacket pocket, and goes, "Well, I hear they're making a new one."
Harrison Ford is such an asshole, but it's fucking hilarious.
I love him so much. Just the fucking stones to be like, "I'm gonna pocket this grand," and I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, so I hear they're making a new one."
I found it.
Wouldn't you? Always trying to blame me. You're the one who couldn't keep it in your furry pants.
Actually, he's not wearing any kind of, doesn't wear pants.
I rest my case.
I rest my case.
You're so full of. How did he get in here?
You're so full of shit.
It's just how did he get in here?
You set this up,
No. I just thought you two could bury the hatchet. I mean, I know you've had issues in the past, and I thought it'd be nice to get you together, you know. What happened between you?
He knows what he did.
He knows what he did.
She was my wife. You Wookiee sack of.
Wookiee sack of shit. Oh, I love that.
Harrison Ford is such an amazing actor. You Wookiee sack of shit.
But
She was my wife.
going over this
He knows what he did.
plot here. Obviously, like I said, it starts off on Hoth, and Luke realizes that since Obi-Wan is dead, he's like, "Oh, well, now I need somebody else to help me with the Force," and he learns of Yoda. So he goes to find
He's a
Yoda.
new Jedi Master.
And Yoda, right off the bat, is batshit crazy.
Well,
He's just
okay,
like-
but can you
he's
blame the
like,
guy for hiding
"Who are
out
you?"
for hiding out in a swamp for that long? Also, I don't think I mentioned this last episode, but was it the end of 3 or was it 4 where they were talking about the chosen one or whatever, and Yoda says there is another?
That's the end of, or that's in Return of the Jedi. Because the beginning of Return of the Jedi, well, we'll get to that. But basically, obviously, Luke lands on Dagobah looking for Yoda, and right off the bat, he doesn't realize who, like, this strange little creature that he met is actually Yoda, until he reveals himself later.
Master Yoda?
Master Jedi. Well,
put some respect on
is
his
he
name.
still... Would he still technically be Master Yoda, even though he's in exile?
I think so. I don't think you lose your title just because Palpatine wiped out the Jedi.
Well, because he fought with Palpatine and he essentially lost, so Yoda was just like, I have to go into exile in order to protect, myself, basically. Because all the Jedi are wiped out and he goes into exile to protect himself, so in episode 3 we see him land on Dagobah, but you can't really see much, but it's supposed to be implied, like, oh, this is Dagobah.
I think it's like the equivalent of like a belt. Like once you hit Master Jedi, you're just a Master Jedi.
Once you hit Master, you're just done.
Like once
There's no going up from
you're
there.
a black belt, you're a black belt. You don't go back a belt,
Yeah, well, I suppose he still is a Jedi Master either way. He just really...
And I think Luke calls him Master Yoda eventually too, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he refers to him as Jedi Master Yoda.
Yeah.
I will say, this whole training thing spawned one of my favorite YouTube videos.
I was just going to talk about that.
The bad lip reading.
That shit makes me laugh.
Patty for your thoughts.
So hard.
Walking and strolling. Down to the beach I'm strolling. But the seagulls, they poking my head, not fun. I said, seagulls, stop it now. I like the part Yoda in this movie too. Yoda's going through Luke's bag because obviously he's probably starving and he's deranged
and
at this point.
He's more gremlin than anything
and
else.
R2 is trying to take the thing back from him, and he's like, "No, I do!" And he starts whacking R2 with his cane.
So the species that Yoda is, what are they called?
I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows really. I think that's still a mystery.
About to look it up right now.
Because so far in Star Wars canon, we've only seen like 3 of his kind.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the girl.
Yeah, Yaddle, who is not in like any major stuff, but I think they focus on her in Tales of the Jedi because she was on the Jedi Council at one point. So yeah, Yoda, Yaddle, and then Grogu from Mandalorian. Which I really want to talk about how those are like intertwined in the story, but I feel like we just saved those for the last episode where we cover all the other spinoffs. But I think, yeah, with the species Yoda is, I don't think there's ever been anything that's said what species he is. Or what species his kind are. So we'll just call them the little green dude species.
Master Yoda's species is listed as Lanik.
Lanik? Where's that from?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia? Lanik?
Wikipedia.
That's what I said. Wikipedia.
Oh, they said Wikipedia.
I will elbow drop you.
I will drive my elbow into your temple.
But, yeah, just Lanik, sure, we'll go with that.
Members of the species were much smarter than the average human, most standing below 70 centimeters with lifespans of many hundreds of years, though the average lifespan is unknown because all known members of the species were Jedi who generally lived longer than ordinary members of a species. Adults of the species were characterized by their sharp elfin ears, ridges in their forehead, tridactyl hands, and most commonly anisodactyl feet.
Anecdotal?
No, anisodactyl.
Sure.
Anisodactyl. Their leathery skin and blood were both light green. Their sharp teeth suggested a carnivorous diet. The diet of the most famous member of the species, Jedi Master Yoda, consisted of nutrients most other beings considered disgusting. The species resembled the Lanik species, both having a short stature, large pointed ears, and in some cases a top knot of hair. Whether the species was related to the Lanik is uncertain, though Yoda was at least once mistaken for Atlantic.
Oh, so he's not Atlantic, but
It
he
doesn't seem like it.
could be.
It seems like their Atlantic species is what Yoda is most closely.
Somebody call up George Lucas. We need answers. I'm surprised he hasn't said anything. Or he might be... Like, he might not have said anything because there's no answer. Or maybe he's not saying anything because he's a dick.
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's also along the same lines as why Mace Windu had a purple lightsaber, because Samuel L. Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber.
Or like George Lucas is like, well, I could tell you what Yoda is, but I don't want to.
Plot twist, Yoda's a gremlin.
Anyway, moving on with Yoda. Or moving on with this movie, I should say. Let's see, alerted to the rebels' location, Empire launches a large-scale attack using AT-AT walkers, forcing the rebels to evacuate the base on Hoth. Han, Leia, 3PO, and Chewbacca escape on the Millennium Falcon, but the hyperdrive malfunctions, so they have to hide on an asteroid field, which is where the worm scene comes. At the same time, Darth Vader summons several bounty hunters to try to find the Millennium Falcon, most notable of which, Boba Fett. So yeah, this is the first movie we see Boba Fett. After they escape the asteroid, they travel to Cloud City on the planet Bespin, which they go there because Lando is an old friend of Han Solo, which we find out in the Solo movie that they have a history.
Yeah, and not a great one.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, Han cheated Lando out of a ship.
And Lando never forgot.
But unbeknownst to them, obviously Lando has kind of been forced by Darth Vader to hand them over.
Yeah.
Like, Lando doesn't want to, obviously, but Darth Vader is like, well, you either hand them over or I'll kill you. And he's like, you know what? That seems like a pretty done deal right there.
Lando said, you know what? I hadn't considered that. BRB.
And this is the movie where we get Lando frozen in carbonite. And we get the infamous, because Leia and Han have, kind of grown a relationship together. And just as Han is about to be frozen in carbonite, Leia says, I love you. And Han responds with, I know.
And then he got to be frozen in carbonite thinking about that for God knows how many years.
Let's see, Luke trains Yoda to master the light side of the Force to resist negative emotions that will seduce him to the dark side. That actually was one of my favorite scenes in this movie, and probably one of the scenes why I really like it. There's a cave on Dagobah that Yoda has Luke go into, and he's like, go into this cave to learn how to face the dark side, learn how to face your negative emotions. Mm-hmm. So he goes into his cave, and Darth Vader comes out, and he has a little fight with him, and he slices off his head, but then the head rolls on the ground and rolls over to reveal part of the helmet broken off, and it's Luke's face. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's supposed to be a representation of like Luke trying to defeating
the dark side.
Yeah, fight his dark side. Oh, and this is the moment you were talking about. Let's see. Luke struggles to control his anger and impulsiveness because obviously he hears his friends are in trouble, and he's like, "No, I gotta go save them." And he struggles to pull his X-Wing out of the swamp in Dagobah, which Yoda does effortlessly. Mm-hmm. Oh, here we go. Luke has a premonition of Han and Leia in pain, and despite Obi-Wan's and Yoda's protestations, because Obi-Wan comes back as a Force Ghost and is like, hey, think rationally, you dumb shit.
Right.
And Obi-Wan is... Although Obi-Wan believes Luke is their only hope, Yoda asserts that there is another. Mm-hmm. Which we find out later, he's talking about Leia.
Well, because at this point in the movie, Leia put it together pretty much right away. She pretty much always knew, but at this point, Luke doesn't realize that Leia is his twin sister.
Yeah, which leads to which led to a really awkward moment in episode 4.
Yeah, but she just did that to make Han jealous.
And we were just like, see, before, I'm sure at the time, people were just like, oh, they're gonna get together. But now, years later, watching that, you're just like,
ew.
What is this, Alabama? Yeah, they freeze.
Which, thinking about it, doesn't really make sense because Obi-Wan was there when they were born, so he knew that there were two.
Well, yeah. But I don't think he knew that Leia was force sensitive. I think he could sense it in Luke. He did. Well, I feel like they do something about that in the Obi-Wan series, but that kind of, I don't know. I feel like the explanation for that is that he could only really sense the force in Luke, and Leia's powers, or Leia's force powers, didn't really start to manifest until, like, maybe, I would guess, maybe the events of Empire Strikes Back. But they freeze Han so that Boba Fett can give him to Jabba the Hutt to collect his bounty. There's a whole, like, Darth Vader allude, pew pew, I'm your father. No,
Princess Leia in the gold bikini.
That's the next one.
It's the wrong episode.
Leia and Chewie rescue Luke from Cloud City, and they leave. Luke gets his hands back, and let's see. He, Leia, C-3PO, and R2-D2 observe as Lando and Chewbacca depart on the Falcon to find Han. So that's how the movie ends, basically. So, and the weird thing is, too, I don't know if you ever noticed this, Lando is wearing Han's clothes.
Yeah.
Like, he's straight up wearing, like, the white shirt and the black vest, and it's like, and I like how the Family Guy parody talked about this, because Brian was Chewbacca in that, and he's, I think Mort was Lando in that, and he's like, oh, don't worry, we'll find Han, and he's like, why are you wearing Han's clothes? And then he looks at the viewer, and he's like, seriously, rewatch the movie, it's weird.
Seriously, rewatch the movie, it's weird.
And straight up, he's wearing Han's clothes. It's super weird.
Rewatch the movie.
I guess anything else about Empire Strikes Back before we move on to the last one? Or last one, air quotes.
Air quotes. No, we can move on to 6.
Alright, so moving on. Let me scroll back up. Where are you? Raiders of the Lost Ark? No, not Raiders of the Lost Ark. Trying to get to the next one. There we go. Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Episode 6. Return of the Jedi. The last Star Wars movie, air quotes, which came out May 25th, 1983. It had a budget of 32.5, somewhere in the range of $32.5 to $42.7 million, and brought in at the box office $482 million.
Mm-hmm.
See, following Lucas and Castane's discussion on making Return of the Jedi, the film went into production. Steven Spielberg, David Lynch, and David Cronenberg were considered to direct the project before, what's his name? Richard Marquand signed on as director. Oh my god, I'm imagining a David Lynch directed Star Wars. That'd be such a weird movie.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a fever dream.
Have you seen any of David Lynch's stuff?
Yeah.
My god, the man is insane.
Yeah.
They actually hired him to do a bunch of PlayStation 2 commercials back in the day, and they were just the weirdest fucking shit. But the plot...
He kind of gives me, like, a Spielberg on drugs vibe.
Basically, yeah, he's Spielberg on drugs. The film follows the ongoing struggle between the malevolent Galactic Empire and the freedom fighters of the Rebel Alliance, as the rebels attempt to destroy the Empire's second Death Star. Did I just pause there for a second? I love, after they blew up the Death Star in Episode 4, they're just like, oh, damn it, now we gotta do a new one.
Alright, let's make another one.
Let's just build another one, I guess. Let's see. As the rebels attempt to destroy the Empire's second Death Star, Luke Skywalker hopes to bring his father, Darth Vader, back from the dark side of the Force. Yeah, got something to say?
I just, because you were like, he struggles to bring his father back or from the dark side of the Force or whatever, and then I just cut in my head to Dolores Umbridge talking to Snape. So at first you attempted to bring your father back to the dark side, did you not?
Yes. But
And
you were unsuccessful? Obviously.
I don't know why that just played in my head, but it made me giggle.
But the basic of Return of the Jedi is it starts off on Tatooine. Everybody's basically met there to try to rescue Han. Leia actually goes undercover as a bounty hunter named Bosk to rescue Han, but Jabba quickly finds him out and is ready to kill off Luke, but Luke is like, haha, not so fast. And basically they all escape with Han, and Leia ends up killing Jabba the Hutt.
As she should.
And in this movie, Han, quote, kills, quote, Boba Fett, which we later find out he's still alive, but we'll get to that. I'm trying to remember the other basic moments of it. Besides, the rebels fight the Empire on Endor. Yep. With the Ewoks and everything. Meanwhile, Luke's big thing is, like it said, trying to bring Darth Vader back from the dark side, which
he kind of does do.
He kind of does do, yeah.
Because at the end, spoiler alert, Darth ends up turning on Palpatine to save Luke.
Luke willingly goes with Darth Vader to Palpatine, and then Palpatine is just like, join your father on the dark side of the Force.
And Luke basically said, get fucked.
And he tries to goat Luke into joining the dark side, but Luke is just like, no, I'll never join you. And then Palpatine is just like, all right, well, get zapped, bitch.
Get zapped, bitch.
And Darth Vader, okay. So now that I'm getting to this is a thing that pisses me off. So in the original movie, as Palpatine is electrocuting the shit out of Luke, right? Mm-hmm. Darth Vader looks back and forth and then looks at Palpatine, picks him up and throws him down the shaft, right? Mm-hmm. Here's what bugs me. I don't know if this is all re-releases, but in at least one of the re-releases, Darth Vader, during this whole exchange where he's looking back and forth, he's just like, no. And then he goes to grab Palpatine and he's like, no. It almost sounds just like that, and it's stupid. It's so goddamn stupid.
I think that was in one re-release, but I don't know if it was in all.
It was in a re-release for sure.
But yeah, I agree with that too, because I was like, okay, this moment was so like.
He's like, no.
There's a reason that this moment was silent in the original.
There's a reason he was silent. Like, because his silence makes it more meaningful.
Because he's coming to terms with the fact that he's not completely lost to the dark side. Because if he was, he wouldn't give a fuck about Luke. But watching Luke be tormented by Palpatine obviously doesn't sit right in his soul, because he ends up turning on his master.
I do like in this movie
but
is
also,
the first time.
And not to be this bitch, but ooh, Anakin turning on a master, kill surprise.
Really? And I like how Return of the Jedi, they acknowledge, his name. This is the first time you hear him referred to as, well, you hear the name Anakin Skywalker before, but you actually, find out, you put two and two together. Like, Anakin is Darth Vader.
Yeah. I think my favorite part in that movie is when it's at the very end when Darth Vader is dying and he takes his helmet off, or he has Luke take his helmet off so that he can look upon him or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have like that moment at the end, that redemption arc that ends up allowing Anakin to come back as a Force ghost.
Yeah, and isn't there a line too where Luke is just like, I wanted to save you, and then Anakin is just like, you already have.
Darth?
I would say, yeah, definitely look it up, because he says
line to Luke.
I would definitely look it up, but you're already on it.
So, according to this, the last thing he said to Luke was, you were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
Alright, well, that's lame.
Yeah, you were right. Tell your sister you were right. Oh, okay. So, basically he's saying what Luke was right about was that he, Darth Vader, could still be redeemed and brought back to the light side.
So I found something interesting in here. So, the Ewoks and them basically triumphing over the stormtroopers. Apparently, George Lucas's inspiration for that, the Ewok's victory, came from the Vietnam War, where the Viet Cong prevailed against the technologically superior United States.
You know, I think I read about that somewhere too.
That the Ewoks were inspired by the Viet Cong in the Vietnam War.
So the line that I was thinking of was, "Just once, let me look on you with my own eyes," and that's what he is.
Let me look on you with my own eyes.
Yeah.
Any from this entire movie? Any good, bad moments you can think of?
My favorite moments were when Darth Vader died, and then Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, like at that moment, he was
Anakin again, and then he was like, "Let me look on you with my own eyes," and then he said, "Tell your sister you were right about me."
Which, given everything else, is a good parallel because I mean, this is we'll probably repeat this again when we talk about the Obi-Wan series, but how there's an interaction between Obi-Wan and Anakin in that, and Anakin tells Obi-Wan that he didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker.
So
Obi-Wan,
basically, him
I did.
as Darth Vader, like he killed what used to be Anakin Skywalker.
Well, and see,
then in that moment, like in Return of the Jedi, Luke killed Darth Vader so that Anakin Skywalker could live one last time.
Here's my theory about Darth Vader. I don't think he was ever truly 100% into the dark side. I feel like had Padme not died, he would have been redeemed a lot sooner. And I say that because the line, "No, Obi-Wan, you did not kill Anakin Skywalker, I did." People say like, "Oh, that's Darth Vader being a fucking badass, blah, blah, blah." I don't think so. I think that was Anakin telling Obi-Wan, "Stop blaming yourself for this. I am not your failure."
And I think I sent you that clip too.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, Anakin basically saying, well, I feel like my theory is that there's two different people. There's Anakin, like he has a split personality.
I think it's a power
there's
struggle,
Anakin,
for sure,
and then there's
yeah.
Darth Vader.
Because
in that same, sorry, I keep interrupting you, but like in that same moment, Anakin's just like, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did." Like I destroyed him, and then you see the red, and that's Darth Vader. And then Darth Vader says, "The same way I'll destroy you."
Yeah, and I think because I think Anakin is still very much alive in Darth Vader, and I think he's, like I said, I think it's a power struggle. And every once in a while, Anakin comes out, but he comes out in a way that's like, this could be misconstrued, because realistically, if he had truly given himself 100% over to the dark side, he would not give a fuck that Obi-Wan blames him for Anakin for everything that happened. Like he wouldn't care that Obi-Wan blames himself for the situation that they're in now, but he took the time to say, "I am not your failure. You did not kill Anakin Skywalker, I did."
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people took that as him being like, "Oh, fuck you, like I made me who I am today," and blah blah blah. I don't think that was the case. I think it was meant to be, this isn't your fault. Don't carry this guilt with you.
Yeah, like in that, and seeing his own son being tortured like that, that's when I think that's when Darth
Anakin
Vader
finally won out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when Darth Vader officially was gone, just disappeared, and then Anakin was able to live one last time.
For once, let me look upon you with my own eyes.
Speaking of Anakin, we go to the end of the movie. Obviously, they're celebrating with the Ewoks, and Luke looks off to like a random railing and sees the Force ghosts of Yoda, which, spoiler, Yoda dies in this one. Like at the very beginning, towards the beginning.
And also, if you haven't seen a 50-year-old movie, then whose fault is that really?
But the Force ghosts of Yoda, Obi-Wan, and then Anakin, because when they got back to Endor, Luke had a Jedi funeral for him, which basically you put the body on the tin of wood and set it ablaze.
On a funeral pyre.
A funeral pyre. Yeah, that's what they're called.
My, those eyes like fire.
Fucking yeah.
I'm a winged insect, you're a funeral pyre.
Speaking of Anakin in this, in the very original movie, the Force ghost of Anakin was played by Sebastian Shaw.
And in the re-release, they got
In the
Hayden Christensen
in
to do
every
it.
re-release since then, they replaced. Well, since episode 3, they replaced him with Hayden Christensen.
I love Hayden Christensen, and I know I talked about this when we went over the third movie, but I
just thought of a random moment, but keep going.
I love the TikTok. I think I send it to you like every time it comes across my For You page because it makes me cry. But it's Hayden Christensen on a panel on stage crying, and the caption is, "The kids who loved him are finally got louder than the adults that hated him."
Oh yeah, you brought this up last episode too.
Because I loved his portrayal as Anakin, and I don't know why he was so universally hated.
I wasn't so sure about him in episode 2, but yeah, episode 3, I think he fucking nailed it.
And I think episode 2 was genius because the character of Anakin that he was playing at that point was somebody who was really struggling with his identity. He's in his late teens, he's in love, he's not progressing as far as he wants to. He thinks he's better than what he's being portrayed as. Like it's that whole power struggle that you see amplified in 3, but it really started in 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm a Hayden Christensen stan, so
I just thought
him.
of there was a Family Guy episode where I think Peter's trying to find his real dad in Ireland, and he was trying to figure out how to get his dad's respect or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he came to the conclusion of doing a drinking game, and all of a sudden, like, Yoda pops up and he's like, "Challenge him, you must." And then the Ghost Everyone comes up and he's like, "Yes, from what he's told us, blah 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 blah." And then and I'm Hayden Christensen.
And I'm Hayden Christensen.
Oh my god. But I guess one last thing before we close off with this episode that I have saved. Changes in the re-releases.
Some that we've already gone over.
Like obviously Hayden Christensen was replacing Sebastian Shaw.
Which I'm glad they did in the re-release, because if they didn't, then we would have, for those heathens like me who watched them in order chronologically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once I got to that point in 6, I would have been like, "Who's this fucking asshole?" Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was a good change overall.
So, I mean, obviously with the Han shot first thing is one of the big changes. The original version was actually iconic. With the altered version is what really got people heated with the whole Han shot first thing. Also, I guess in the very, very original version,
even though he did shoot first, but that's none of my business.
In the very, very original version of A New Hope, there's a scene where Han is talking with Jabba, but in like the very first version of it, Jabba was just a guy. And then
oh yeah, you're right.
And then in re-releases they added like a CGI Jabba in, and it's kind of weird if you really look at it. But there's a re-release out there where Han steps on Jabba's tail, but obviously he never, like Harrison Ford never did that action. So what they had to do was take him as he's walking and just move Han. They just had to make it look like he was stepping over, even though he was just casually walking forward. They just moved him, like fucking like copy and paste and just like moved him over where his tail would be. Any other big re-releases? Yeah, Jabba the Hutt. Oh, actually, I think this is what I was talking about. Let's see. The original script for Star Wars included a scene with Han and Jabba in the Mos Eisley docking bay. The scene was filmed by a second unit with Declan Mulholland wearing a furry vest as a stand-in for Jabba. Oh, so they were going to put Jabba in. They just had somebody else stand in place.
Yeah.
Let's see. In the 1997 special edition, the scene was reinserted with CGI Jabba replacing Mulholland. This was an early example of fully CGI speaking character in a film, preceding Jar Jar Binks.
Oh god, I love Jar Jar Binks.
So basically this preceded, like, is it with Jar Jar and Phantom Menace, they had to have the actors just kind of talk with nobody there, and they filled it in later with CGI. Oh, here we go. In the original footage, Ford walked through the area where Jabba's tail would be. As a workaround, Han was digitally moved to appear as if he steps on Jabba's tail, with the Hutt squealing as a result. This part of the scene has been poorly received, including by its original animator. Because it looks so bad.
It is
Like, he literally...
horrific. It is hysterically bad.
Like, it looks like somebody just, like, clicked on him and just moved him.
And it's not like, it's not fluid.
It doesn't look
it's
natural.
a very choppy motion.
Boba Fett and several Rodians, blah, 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 at least one of whom is looked like a Greedo in the scene, also appear in the scene, with Fett seeming to break the fourth wall. So, at one of the releases, they just randomly added Boba Fett into the scene, too. Even though he wasn't supposed to be really introduced until Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
During the training scene aboard the Millennium Falcon, Luke's lightsaber, which in some releases has erroneously appeared green, was corrected to blue in the 2011 re-release.
Was it?
Yeah, I guess originally, during that scene, it was green, but in...
see, and I always remember his lightsaber being green.
No, it's supposed to be blue, but it's green in Return of the Jedi.
Because Anakin's was green, right?
Well, so he has a blue lightsaber in New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, but after he loses his lightsaber to Darth Vader after his hand gets cut off, his new lightsaber is green.
I guess I just remember the green one.
For the special edition, a scene of Han chasing a squad of stormtroopers on the Death Star was altered to replace several stormtroopers at the end of the corridor with dozens in formation. Oh, yeah. So there's a scene where Han's just like running down the hall just screaming at these stormtroopers. And then it cuts to him being like, oh shit. And then it cuts to like a bunch of stormtroopers in a release. It's a room just full of stormtroopers.
My lord, stormtrooper.
Also, you know what? I'm not going to go much more through this list because honestly, I could be here all day. But one of my favorite, it's not like a fix or anything. It's more of a addition. Mm-hmm. There's a part, I think it's in New Hope, where stormtroopers enter a room looking for something. And one of the stormtroopers, one of the actors, accidentally bonks their head on the door.
Love that they kept that in.
And instead of like cutting it out or like editing out the sound or whatever, they instead heightened the sound so it's more noticeable.
The stormtroopers are notoriously bad at their jobs. So
like they're supposed to be menacing, and as they enter this room, just one stormtrooper just clunk.
Because first of all, they can't aim for dick. They're just notoriously bad at their jobs because they're clones, right? So they're just like, they're bound to be, well, at least we think they're clones until we get
to... They're not really... Well, I guess they're not really clones at this point. Because I think we find out, well, later in episodes that a bunch of the stormtroopers are actually just children taken from families and forced to join the Empire.
I thought...
Most of them are clones, yeah, because most of them...
I thought they were clones up until after the events of 6, because they were clones in 2.
I think most of them were still clones at that point, but then Return of the Jedi...
Because they're clones of Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, they were clones of...
Did I say Boba Fett?
Boba Fett.
Meant Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Boba Fett's cousin from fighting Louisiana. Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Boba Fett. You want some fried shrimp?
You want some shrimp? You want some shrimp? Teriyaki shrimp.
Coconut shrimp, teriyaki shrimp, fried shrimp. You can fry all kinds of shrimp. Boba Fett Shrimp Company.
Boba Fett Shrimp Company. Could you imagine? Because they're all clones of Boba Fett, though, right?
Yeah, they're all clones. We find that out in episode 2, which is Obi-Wan goes to the planet Kamino.
That one weird planet with all the long neck people.
With the long neck, no titty having ass
long
bitch.
Long neck, no titty having ass. Oh, he says she ain't got no nipples.
But that's when Obi-Wan not only finds out there's a clone army, but he's also gonna lead this damn army.
Yeah.
Or he's gonna
because
partially lead the army.
We can touch on this later in the next episode.
And sharp. And keep our wits about us.
We can talk about this when we go over the series or whatever. But I was under the assumption that through 1 through 6, the stormtroopers were all clones, and that's what made it so funny that they were just horrendously bad at their jobs.
I think, yeah, they are mostly clones at that point, but when they start taking people, like kids from families or whatever, or start basically forcing people to be stormtroopers, is when they start obviously losing a bunch of stormtroopers, because the rebels, are basically knocking out a bunch of them and killing a bunch of them. So they're like, okay, we just, we need more people.
Yeah.
And I think when the First Order starts forming is when they really
hide your kids, hide
really
your wives.
delve into that.
Yeah.
Anything else about the movie or the original trilogy? Just all of them and in general.
And I know we'll touch on this, but I like the new Star Wars trilogy. I think it's a nice continuation of the original 6. But the original 6, I mean, it wrapped up in such a nice little bow. You could just watch 1 through 6 and leave it at that,
Yeah.
You can watch 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, however many there are now, but you don't have to,
I'd say however many there are now, if you're not counting series and spin-offs.
Although, The Mandalorian, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I like how you do facial expressions, like anybody listening is gonna know what you're.
Listen, The Mandalorian,
expressing.
Eyebrows, side eye, eyebrows. But I'm in love with Pedro Pascal, so that's probably why.
I'll say, yeah, we'll definitely touch on that, but I would say the original trilogy is probably my favorite out of the other trilogies. Not that I don't like any of the trilogies.
The original trilogy, 1, 2, 3,
like
or 4, 5, 6? Oh, okay.
I definitely prefer 4, 5, 6 over 1, 2, 3, but like I said in the last one, Phantom Menace still does hold a special place in my heart because it was my first Star Wars.
Yeah.
And my first theater experience.
I have 2 issues with that. My first issue is the title, The Phantom Menace. That was never explained what the Phantom Menace was.
I think it was implied that it was supposed to be Darth Maul.
Okay,
or either that or the fact that...
They didn't do a great job implying shit.
It's either supposed to be Darth Maul or the fact that the Sith are around and people are just found out. Or the Jedi just found out that the Sith are a problem again.
Only Sith steal an absolute. Well, from my perspective, the Jedi are evil. But also, my only other issue is that because 1, 2, and 3 came out so much later, they look newer than 4, 5, and 6 do. So it's I
feel like that's not really a fair argument, though.
Well, no, and I know that. I know it's not
it
a fair
was
argument.
late 70s, early 80s.
It's just very jarring watching 1, 2, and 3 and then watching 4, 5, and 6 because I feel like I'm simultaneously going back and forward in time.
Yeah, because you gotta keep in mind too.
Which I know isn't a fair assessment, but that's
the original trilogy came out late 70s, early 80s, and then episode 1, 2, 3 came out mid 2000s.
Well, yeah, because that's how come What's Her Face was able to play Padme Amidala.
Natalie Portman.
I love Natalie Portman.
Even though literally 5 seconds ago you referred to her as what's her name?
Because I get Natalie Portman and the other actress that looks just like her mixed up all the time.
Are you referring to Keira Knightley?
No.
Then I have no idea who you're talking about. Oh my god. Well, as you Google that, I guess I'll end off this episode by saying Star Wars is great. And we'll continue the discussion talking about episodes 7, 8, and 9 next week. Which I know a lot of people are kind of iffy on, but you know what? Just stick around. You'll get to hear our thoughts on that. But like I said, I really love.
Yeah, I definitely was thinking about Keira Knightley.
See, I told your ass.
They could be twins. Look at them. Mira.
Yeah, I suppose I can see it.
Keira Knightley is more angular, but other than that,
it's more angular.
She has a sharper jawline and a sharper chin, but other than that, they could be twins. But
anyways, I guess with that, close off the episode. Like I said, we'll talk about episodes.
This is topical. Keira Knightley and
I'm trying to close the episode.
Okay, but this pertains to what we were just talking about. Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman, these two brunette stars looked so much alike that the Star Wars The Phantom Menace producers couldn't help but take notice and cast Knightley as the body double for Portman's Queen Amidala in the first film.
Yeah, it's almost like I shared that fact in the last episode.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
My bad.
Anyway, that's been the episode. Drink your water, blah, blah, blah. I've been Cameron.
I've been Kate.
Nerd out. Bye.